Hi, welcome to Mastering C++ Unlocked. This is lecture 2. In today's session, we will dive into key topics: the compilation process, input processing and output, the programming process, parts of C++ program, the cout and cin objects, header files and the using directives, and variable, literal, and identifiers. Whether you are new to C++ or revising these basic, this lecture will equip you with essential knowledge to build reliable programs. Let's jump in. The compilation process. The process involves four main stages: pre-processing, compilation, assembly, and linking. Step-by-step breakdown to compilation process. Uh, the compiler reads these directives and inserts the necessary external code from the libraries directly into the program. Without pre-processing, the program would not know how to use certain functions such as cout because the necessary library IO stream would not be included. Compilation. Assembly language as a bridge between C++ code and machine code, where it is more understandable for programmers but is still too complex for the computer to execute directly. Assembly. Machine code is made up for ones and zeros. This is the form the computer processor can directly execute. The code is now machine readable but incomplete. It is not yet executable because it has not been linked to external libraries. Linking. Every time they write code, it must go through these steps. Without linking, the program would not be able to run because it would not have access to all necessary parts. Input, processing and output, the programming processes, the basic structure of the almost every C++ program. Input, this is where the program collects data from the user. In C++, cin is used to capture input. Processing, after receiving input, the program performs operation or calculation on the data. Output, once the processing is complete, the result is displayed on the user using cout. Code example: the line cin number collect input from the user and store in the variable number. This one. Input data needs to collect it in the correct format. In this case, the program expects as integer input, integer. And if the user provides a non-numeric input, the program may behave unexpectedly. In this simple example, there is no significant data processing beyond reading and storing the user input, but typically this stage involves performing logical operation or calculation on the input data. The cout object uses the display to the result on the screen. The line cout, you entered a number and I'll print the user's input value. A C++ program contains several essential parts, each play a critical role, and without them the program will not compile or run. Preprocessor directives. Example is include IO stream. These directives include the input-output stream library, which provides access to cout and cin for printing and reading input. The main function, where execute began. Without it, the program would not be able to compile. Structure is, every CC program must have example one main function. It contains the core logic and instruction for the program. Statements are individual instruction inside the braces for functions such as main. The statement print a message on the screen like C hello world. Return statement, the return 0 statement signal that the program completed successfully. The return value indicate whether the program finished without errors. Including this statement ensures smooth execution, especially in a larger application. Example, see preprocessor directives, and this one is a main function, and this is statement example, and this is a return statement. So we have 4 examples of part of C++ programs. The cout and cin objects. The cout object sends output to the screen while the cin object captures input from the user. Cout, the cout object is a part of C++, specifically the IOStream library. And you can see here, use message here. Here the operators direct the output to the console. An example is cout hello world, and this line print the message hello world followed by a new line. And cin, the cin object is also part of IOStream library, and it's used to receive input from the user through the console. When using cin, you typically write cin more variable names, and then cout operator extract input from the user and store into a specified variable. Example is, in this example, the user is prompted to enter their age, which is stored in the variable age. Interaction between cout and cin. Data flow: cin capture the user's input and assign it to a variable, and cout display messages and result back to the user. An example is, in this code, cin collect the user's age and store in a age variable. The cout input the message that include the user age entered. The cout and cin objects are fundamentals for creating interactive C++ programs. Mastering their use is essential for effective programming and user engagement. Header files and the using directives. Header files contain pre-written code, functions, and definition of common tasks. Example is, this allow the user input or output function like cin and cout. Why important? Predefined functionality. Avoid coding common utilities from scratch like IO streams. Provide IO functions. Reusable code. Promote efficiency and reliable by using tested libraries. Common header files are IO streams for input and output, cin and cout. CMath, square root, power of, and for string handling is string. For familiarity with libraries, help write efficient code by using appropriate function for tasks. Using directive, using namespace standard allows direct access to standard library for function without the standard prefix. Example is, without this directive standard cout handle would need to be used instant. Why important? Simplifies code, reduce repetitive use of standard in small programs, and avoid conflict in large projects. Using standard explicitly can prevent naming conflict between libraries. Practical example is in, include IOStream, provide IO functions, namespace, simplified code by avoiding standard prefix, variable to store user input, prompt the users and read the input. You enter number, display the input and indicate that program is uh, ended successfully. Key takeaways: header files provide essential function and save times, and using directive simplified code but should be used to cautiously in large project to avoid conflicts. Variable, literal and identifier. Variable are name, storage location for data. Literal are fixed constant value directly written in the code, and identifier the name used to refer to variable or other entities in the code. Variable is a named storage location in the computer's memory that holds data which can change during the execution of a program. When we create a variable, we are essentially reserving space in memory to store information. Example is here age is variable of type in that is stored in the value 25. The value stored in a variable can change as the program runs. For example, if a user input a new value, the variable can store a new value. It is dynamic, unlikely literal, which are fixed. Why are variable important? Variable allow us to work with and manipulate data throughout our program. We use them to store results from calculation, take input from user, or even track condition in a loop. Practical tip: when declaring variable, make sure they are properly initialized before use. Uninitialized variable can cause error or unpredictable behavior. Choose meaningful names of variable that reflect their purpose. This makes your code easier to understand. Literal. A literal is fixed constant value used directly in the code. It represents a value that does not change during program execution. Example is int age, here 25 is a literal, already fixed. String hello, hello is a literal because they are fixed, not from user input. Type of literal: integer literal, whole number e.g. 4200 minus 5. Floating point literal, decimal number 3.14 or 0.001. Character literal, single character enclosed in single quotes like A of 5. String literal, a sequence of characters enclosed in a double quotes hello or C++. Unlike variable, literal cannot be changed during program execution. They are fixed values that are directly hard-coded into the source code. Practical tip: make sure to use the appropriate type of literal depending on the variable type. For instance, you can't store a floating point literal like 3.14 in an int variable. Always enclosed string literal in double quotes, while character literal should be enclosed in a single quotes. Identifiers. An identifier is the name given to the variable, function, classes or other element in a program. It helps the programmer refer to these elements in the code. Example is age is identifier and the variable stored in 25. Naming rule for identifier must begin with the letter or an underscore. Correct age underscore values. My variable and the incorrect are second number, cannot start with the number, at special numbers allowed, can contain letter, digits and underscore, correct user under name total sum 2, incorrect user space hyphen, no hyphen allowed, first names, no spaces, and case sensitive is C++, age and age are different, small uppercase age and smaller, and integer is 25 and integer is 35 are both are different. Identifiers are used to make these code more readable and meaningful. They should be descriptive and following naming conventions such as camel case or snake case, my variable name, depending on the coding style guide you follow. Practical tip: choose meaningful identifier that describe the purpose of the variable or function. For example, total mark is much clearer than X or variable 1. Avoid very short uncrypted identifier unless you are working with simple loop counters like I in a for loop. Practical example combining variable, literal and identifiers. Age is identifier here and literal, and 25 store in the value, and here output you are 25 years old, which will taken from here. This one we took from here. In this example, integer is declare a variable called 25 is a literal assigned to the variable. As I earlier said, age is an identifier used to refer to the variable cout print the value stored in the age on the screen. So finally, variable stores data that can change during the program's execution. Literal are fixed value that are directly used in the code, and identifier are names given to the variable, functions or other element in your code and must follow specific naming rules. Thank you.